Hello and welcome to this episode of New Jersey Paranormal. I'm John RUGGIERO. Today we're at the Burlington Prison in Mount Holly, New Jersey, one of the most haunted buildings in New Jersey. I'm here with Janet Sozio, president of the Prison Museum Association. Janet, thank you for being here.
Thank you, John.
Tell me a little bit about the history of the prison.
The jail is a very significant building historically. It was designated a National Historic Landmark in 1987, one of only 2,500 such buildings designated in the whole United States. And it was designated a National Historic Landmark because it was designed by Robert Mills, the first American-born and American-trained architect. He was a Quaker, and like all Quakers in those days, he was interested in prison reform. The Quakers had the unusual idea for those days that prisoners could be reformed through education, religious training, and vocational training. So he designed this building with those concepts in mind. Exactly. In fact, he even wrote an essay about it, which he submitted with the plans, and anyone who is interested can read that essay on our website. He was also interested in fireproof materials. He designed this building with stone and concrete. It's the first fireproof building built in the United States. Wow. He designed the buildings to last. He went on to have a very illustrious career. He designed this place when he was only 26 years old. At the same time, he became friends with none other than Thomas Jefferson and helped Jefferson design Monticello. But later, he became President Jackson's chief architect, and during those years, he really reached his height. He designed many buildings that you know of today, including the U.S. Post Office, the U.S. Treasury Building, that's the building on the back of your $10 bill, and the Washington Monument. When this place closed in 1965, after 159 years of use, it was the oldest continuously used jail in the country. You had mentioned that the levels were separated according to the crimes committed. Is that true? And yes.
Like what the floor that we're on now, what was on this floor as opposed to the floors below, because we're on the top floor?
Well, but you have to understand that jails up until this time were one-room affairs with no heat or light, and everyone was put in together. You could have a rapist put in with someone who stole a sack of flour, which of course is we would consider today to be inhumane. This jail separated people according to crime.
Okay.
So we have cell blocks, and if the visitor goes through, they can look at the size of the windows to see what type of prisoner.
Isn't that something? Where were the hardened criminals, the rapists, the murderers? Were they? The
maximum security cell was placed on this floor right between the debtor cells. Mills put it right in the middle.
Is that referred to as the dungeon?
The dungeon, okay. Or cell number 5. He put it on the top floor where the prisoner couldn't tunnel out, and where the guards would spend a lot of time to surveil it.
And that window was about that big?
The window was the smallest window in the place.
Hi, I'm here with Jan Lynn Bastine, and she has written 2 books about paranormal hauntings in the area. Jan, hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So, do you have any stories that people have told you about paranormal happenings in this area?
Well, yeah, a lot in this area, but you mean particularly in this prison? In this prison, yeah. Well, my first discussion was with Marissa Bosarth, who was the curator of the prison museum at the time I moved to Mount Holly. And she's what actually got me interested in all the ghosts in the area. She used to tell me how she always felt somebody following her around in here. She would hear people like ladies, high heels walking down the halls, possibly visitors from the past. She sometimes felt like somebody was following her, or she'd just like see something go by her really quickly. And she did have a medium from Browns Mills come in one time and told her that there is someone here and he's constantly watching you. In fact, he likes to annoy you, I mean. And so she, that kind of solidified what she had suspected all along. She also told me that one time Wesley Warner, who was one of the men that was hanged here, one time some of his descendants came in and they wanted to know more about his story and where his cell was and everything. And she said as soon as they walked in, she felt just the whole atmosphere change here, and it always felt like someone was like right behind them as she was taking them around to see where he stayed and told his story and everything. She said as soon as they left, the whole atmosphere went back.
Before New Jersey Paranormal comes in and does any type of a ghost investigation, we do research. And interestingly enough, we found a lot of things that might be the reason why this place is haunted. From 1811 to 1906, there were actually 9 executions held right here in Mount Holly. Back in 1850, the courts ordered that all hangings be done with a semblance of dignity and with privacy. So they moved them from a street location where they were public spectacles to actually here behind the yard in the prison, where there's a high stone wall and you had to have a ticket for admission to get in. Also, it didn't stop any of the spectators that wanted to see this event. They would actually climb trees and they would climb roofs to actually view the hanging. Ironically enough, the first hanging was Philip Lynch, who got into a fight with George Cutler at a Burlington bar over who was stronger, specifically who had the bigger arm. On the way home from the bar, the both of them got into a fist fight where Lynch actually knocked Cutler senseless, went home, got a gun, came back, and beat him to death. Unfortunately, this all was done in front of his son. But on being sentenced, he turned to the prosecuting attorney and told him that with his last breath, he would be back for him as well. Coming into the prison, he turned to the sheriff and stated, "If you hang me before nightfall, I will get you all." Then he was taken out where he was hung and swung grotesquely. Taking a step back to 1833, Joel Cutler was hung out publicly. He was hung for the murder of his girlfriend, Mary Hamilton, who he stabbed to death because she refused his proposal. Upon hanging 3 months later, here in the backyard, he swung for 22 agonizing minutes before he died. Now going to Wesley Warren, who was hung here for the murder of his girlfriend, Lizzie, who was known as the Burlington Hussy and lived in sin with a sugar daddy. Warner was 27 years old and left his wife and 4 children to be with Lizzie. He worked a concession stand at the state fair where nightly he would watch Lizzie flirt with men and take money. So in a rage, he followed Lizzie and her 2 sisters with 3 gentlemen to the opera, where he waited behind a bush for Lizzie to come out, jumped out crying, "Damn you, Lizzie," and slit her throat. So of course he was hung here too for that murder. Another reason why this place might be very haunted is the double murder that happened right here where we're standing at this jail cell. And Henry Assey was in here for drunken disorderly, convinced the Warden King that he was sick. When Warden King returned to give him medication, he unlocked the cell door where Astley came out with a poker and bludgeoned him to death, then killed another gentleman that was working in the kitchen by the name of Bartley, and then gave himself up meekly to the other officers that came into the cell. Later on, it was deemed that he would be tried for first-degree murder, but then that was changed that he was criminally insane at the time of the murders, so he only did about 13 years of prison before he was released on parole. That's why this very area might be haunted.
And now we're going to set up in the basement with our equipment because this is reportedly the most active place in the building. This is where the murders happen. This is where people have experienced things. So I'm going to get the rest of the team down here and we're going to get started. we spent hours investigating inside the prison as well as outside of the prison. We covered pretty much every inch of the building and the yard, and we were actually able to capture a lot of evidence.
Substantial evidence.
In and around the building. I was actually surprised by the connection we were able to make
With the history itself?
between the history, all the hangings that went on there, the murders that went on there,
The characters that were there?
the people who actually did those
Murders.
specific things. So, and again, the communication was on a level of multiple pieces of equipment. It wasn't just one thing. It wasn't just a voice on a recorder. It was the SLS. It was the Ovilus.
And they all seem to be reacting to the same thing.
And intelligently.
Yes.
I mean, these weren't things that when people talk about residual hauntings, it's just a replay, an imprint. These were things kind of responding as we were asking, which, again, I think is very unique. And that building is rumored to be one of the most haunted. And
I
this is
think
the
we're
first
proving
time
it.
we were able to get in there and turn the lights out, and it didn't disappoint. So,
Well, the most interesting part is the very first clip that we have. We started outside in the prison yard, and we used the Ovilus. And a matter of minutes of going out there and walking over to where the guillotine, where they actually did the executions, we actually got the Ovilus, which has like 2,000, 3,000 words programmed in it, spit out 3 words that let us know that there was a dark haunting there.
and this was with, like you said, this was literally from the back door to the gallows,
Yeah.
where the Ovilus just started saying these words, and we'll see that clip now.
It'll zoom in. You just have to hold it for a minute.
It just jumped
Haunting
from the post
known
to the crystal
dark.
and then jumped past the chain and disappeared.
Now, we talked about this even before the show. I don't think it's really a matter of the way the words were presented as much as it is what they were trying to say.
To communicate to us.
I think it was saying dark known haunting. I don't
Yeah.
think the order really matters. I think that it was trying to say that in a way that it could. And it really would make sense because we're talking about people that killed people, brutally. If someone with a knife, someone
People who threatened to come back and to take out people who were there once they were hung.
Right, and if anything was to linger back there, it would be something dark. And the only known thing that would be back there is Joel Clow.
Philip Lynch was the one I think that was threatening to people.
No, as far as the one that was buried, the body that's
his
buried.
body's back there. Yes, he's buried back there.
Buried in the yard
Yeah.
because it was during the Depression. They couldn't afford to bury him, and they don't know where.
And nobody would
he's
claim
buried.
him. Yeah.
And a murderer. So if anything was dark and it would stay back there, it would probably be him. But it could be any of them because these were all sick people and killers. And the next clip actually happens in the yard as well. Basically the same area, I believe. We were by where the gallows would have been. And this figure appears on the SLS camera, which maps movement and figures that we can't see with our naked eye. And at first it appears by a pole, and then it does something strange. and let's play the clip, and then we'll talk about that. Philip Lynch, I think.
It's reaching out to John.
Rufus, I don't remember the other guy.
Wesley Warren.
It's,
Wesley Warren.
whoa, look at that, look at that.
Leslie,
It just jumped over right by you, Ton.
Wesley,
And then
are you here?
Leslie, I
it's
know
like the
where
red
Lizzie
one.
is.
Ton, back up a little bit.
I know where Lizzie is.
We had.
It's still there. Look, it's still there.
22 minutes
Yep, I
Wesley
see
hung before he died.
If you want to say hello to Lizzie, come touch
And
my
then
hand.
switch hands. Shivering. Okay, that's
I
better.
felt like something like tugged my jacket.
Yeah, well, it's right there.
It was
everybody hear
on.
me?
It was on your shoulder.
What's interesting about that clip, and again, as I watch it again, the SLS will map a figure, an object that's just, static, just standing there, like the chair, and it will sometimes show a stick figure. What that shows is the pole was there and something was actually reaching out
From the pole.
from the pole, and you see it leave the pole, jump on me, stay on me for a good couple of seconds and then kind of remove itself from me.
Well, it seemed like the more that we kept saying what we were aware of it, then it seemed like it jumped back to the post and it kind of like hid behind the post, because I don't know if you saw like the arm like was by the post.
But again, watching the clip again, because I don't remember the clip until I've seen it now, I actually reference it pulling my jacket.
Yeah.
And there's no way of me knowing what Kenny was seeing through that camera. I'm just saying what I'm feeling at the time.
Because actually right before that was filmed, you actually were getting those words from the obelisk.
Right.
So it was almost like simultaneous.
And it just, again, the feeling of being tugged on and then being able to validate that by the figure actually we're able to see the figure, what it's doing, going from pole to me
and then
to
back
pole again. So that was a little strange when I saw that. With the next clip.
Well, we decided to go inside because it was brutally cold that night. It was unbelievably cold. And we went in and we decided we were going to start in the basement because that's actually where the murders were started. So Tanya decided, we had put a REM pod all the way down at the other end of the hall, and Tanya had to start saying, like, if there's somebody down there, can you light this up? And it was almost like on command immediately that the REM pod lit up.
Let's see that clip.
Are you down at the very end of the hallway? Light something up.
There you go.
Can you light the other one?
Again, what I love about clips like that is that what we're looking for is intelligent communication. We're looking for something that we can't see that's listening to us and then reacting to us. And she, like you said, she basically finished saying, if you're down there, light that up, and bam, on command.
Yeah.
So something was listening, and something, you literally have to touch the antenna of that object to make it light up like that. And again, something did. Who that was?
Well, that's what we're going to find out.
That's what we're going to find out. We were talking, there are stories about something did happen in the basement. There was actually a murder. The warden was murdered down there. Mm-hmm. Bartlett, I believe was the name. He was actually worked in the kitchen. He was a prisoner. And Assay, I can't remember Assay's
Assay, Harry Assay was the killer.
Was the one who killed them. And again, when we're doing these type of things, it's not enough to know that somebody's listening. We want to know who was listening. So again, we're using that same object, which whoever it is willing to use to communicate, and we ask another question. Well, let's play that clip.
Were you one of the guards that was killed here?
Oh, sugar.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. There was a guard that was killed right here in this hallway.
His name wasn't Michael, though.
No, it's King.
King?
Last name was
W. Harry King, Dave Warden.
Who was
Mr. King, is that you?
Who's the other guy?
Bartlett.
Barton?
Bartlett.
Bartlett.
He was carrying flour on his over his shoulders when he was attacked by Harry Assay.
Mr. King, is this you? If your last name was King, write that up for me. And the other one was Bartlett? Bartlett. Were you Bartlett, who was carrying the flour? Okay.
Oh, shoot.
Bartlett, was he a prisoner or guard?
He was one of the workers in the kitchen. Now, the amazing thing about that is that here we found out that she asked a specific question about the guard, and then it lit up. And then she kept digging to see if it was King, the guard that was there, and it wouldn't light up. And then she asked again, you know, is it Bartlett? So you actually got two different responses at two different times. So we figured out we had two entities that were responding to us.
Or even you know, as I watch it again, whoever it was knew of the incident and what had happened. So initially it reacts to the guard being killed or the warden. But then, like you said, Tanya actually does ask several times, are you William King? And there's nothing. And it's only when she gets to Bartlett does it respond and say, yeah, maybe this is who I am.
And it would stand to reason that those would be the two individuals that would be there if they were murdered down there. So we followed it up even again I think it was you this time that you and Tanya didn't know, I did, that Bartlett was a prisoner in the thing, so in the prison itself. So you followed it up by asking, were you a prisoner? And we actually got a response from that.
Were you also a prisoner here as well? Okay. We got to see if we can confirm that. If we can confirm that he was also a prisoner working in the kitchen, that'll be something. You know?
Yeah.
And that's part of that validation, because we did find that out later that he was someone who actually was a prisoner who...
And he was working in the kitchen. Good behavior.
This next clip here is one of my favorites. I was using the spirit box, and I was asking questions. If you're William, the warden, or somebody else, and somebody was actually getting aggravated that I was talking, and they said, screw you. And here's the clip.
Not me.
Are you William?
It was a REM pod, but it was next to me.
Are you Assy? I thought I heard screw you. And the funny thing is, I heard it, but I didn't know if I heard it or not. Let's play it one more time, and you can actually hear the word screw you.
Not me.
Are you William?
It was a REM pod, but it was next to me.
Are you Assy? I thought I heard screw you. And it would make sense that prisoners aren't going to be real friendly to people just walking
So we think in
around.
life you could hear it, and then also in death somebody's telling it to you.
He actually did tell me screw you, and that was kind of surprising.
I thought that was really funny, but your reaction to it was even better. On the same vein, we were still standing in that same area, and that actually was right where the murders happened and where Assy was kept prisoner, where you're standing with the spirit box. And we got a name that actually popped up that took us all by surprise.
Yeah, this is pretty clear. Let's play that clip.
Philip. It said Philip. Philip Lynch.
Lynch was the guy who was hung.
Shut up.
Philip Lynch was the first man hung here, executed in the prison. And he said he'd come back for everybody.
We're going to play that one more time because, again, people doubt the spirit box and that it can be used for communication. Sometimes words just come through. That Philip is as clear as day. Let's play that one more time.
Philip. It said Philip.
Philip Lynch.
Lynch was the guy who was hung.
Shut up.
Philip Lynch was the first man hung here, executed in the prison. And he said he'd come back for everybody.
What I love about that clip is people who doubt the spirit box, because a lot of random things come through from the radio, that was so clear, that Philip. And I'm literally holding the speaker in the area where he was kept and escaped from, where he ambushed the warden. So that was
I think maybe Philip could have been the one that said screw you too, because he was the one that was angry at everybody and threatened everybody.
This last clip here is a voice that we captured on the 3rd floor, I believe.
Yes, in one of the cells.
Yeah. Tanya was asking, we were hearing bangs all over the place. Tanya was asking, can you tell us your name? And another angry voice.
And this is on death row.
Right. Let's play that clip.
Can you tell your name?
Oh, holy.
Watch your step, John. Right in front of you.
Can you tell your name?
No.
No.
That was as clear as friggin' day. We're going to play that one more time, and I don't know if we get it out the curse, but we'll play it one more time, just so again, so you could hear the intelligent response.
Can you tell your name?
Oh, holy.
Watch your step, John. Right in front of you.
Can you tell your name?
No.
No.
That was as clear as friggin' day. Again, another clip that I like because it's something listening and something responding. And you brought it up a good point that I forgot to mention. That was in the death row area. That's where the prisoners were kept before
they hung.
They were hanged.
Yeah, they hanged. They hanged.
And to hear you know, these guys just didn't want to be bothered. You could hear throughout the night they really didn't want us.
But it seemed that we had key communication with some very well-known characters there. The guard who was murdered, Bartlett who was murdered,
Lynch, who was
the killer himself, Harry Assey might have been, and like Philip Lynch, like you said.
The guy who mentioned he was going to come back to haunt the place actually said his name while we're there trying to communicate out loud, which I thought was really something unique in that we were able to capture that. The Burlington Prison did not disappoint.
No.
As far as one of the most haunted places in New Jersey, I would definitely call it that. I would love to go back there again and again. I recommend everyone go there for the day tours to just see the building when, you know, during the day if you can. And if you can figure out a way to get in there at night to do a ghost hunt or even with us, I recommend you do that as well. Definitely want to go back there.
So do I.
Many times.
Especially in warmer weather.
Definitely. Thank you all for watching this episode of New Jersey Paranormal. We'll see you next time.